Jake Morrison wiped the grease from his hands as he finished fixing the last engine part. The trading ship Stellar Wanderer was finally ready to dock at Nexus Prime Station. This was his first time visiting the famous space station where all the alien races met to do business and talk politics. "Hey Jake, you better clean up nice," said Dr. Maya Patel, his friend and fellow crew member. "Tonight's reception is full of important aliens. The Etherian elves will be there too." Jake had heard about the elves. They thought they were better than everyone else in the galaxy. Their technology was good, but they looked down on humans like they were dirt. Jake did not care much about fancy parties, but Captain Brooks said all crew members had to attend. 2 hours later, Jake stood in the station's grand hall wearing his best uniform. The place was huge with crystal walls that sparkled under bright lights. Aliens of all kinds walked around in expensive clothes, drinking colorful drinks and talking in quiet voices. The red-skinned Kregan warriors stood in one corner, their military uniforms covered in medals. The blue-scaled Aquarians moved gracefully near the water fountains. Small, gray-skinned traders from the Merchant Guild counted money on their digital tablets. Then the main doors opened with a loud sound. Everyone stopped talking and turned to look. Princess Lyrelay walked in like she owned the place. Jake had never seen anything like her. Her skin was a soft blue color that seemed to glow from inside. Long silver hair flowed behind her like liquid metal. She wore a white dress that looked like it cost more than Jake's entire ship. Tiny lights danced around her, making her look like a star. Behind her walked 6 tall guards in shining armor. Other elves followed, all looking perfect and cold. The princess smiled, but it was not a nice smile. It was the kind of smile a cat gives before catching a mouse. "Welcome, honored guests," she said in a voice like music. But there was something mean hidden in it. "How wonderful to see so many different species gathered here tonight." Her eyes moved across the room and stopped on the human group. Jake felt like she was looking right through him. "Oh my," Princess Lyrelay said, walking closer to where Jake stood with Maya and the other humans. "I see the humans have joined us. How quaint." The other aliens moved closer to watch. Commander Zara, the big red-skinned Kregan leader, crossed her arms and waited to see what would happen. "Tell me, human," the princess said, pointing at Jake with one long finger. "What exactly do your people bring to our civilized galaxy? Your ships are ugly and slow. Your technology is basic. Your manners are... well, do you even have manners?" Some of the aliens laughed quietly. Jake felt his face get hot, but he kept calm. Maya touched his arm like she was saying, "Don't do anything stupid." "I mean, look at you," Princess Lyrelay continued, walking around Jake like she was studying a bug. "That rough hair, those simple clothes, that crude way of standing. Do you really think your species belongs here with the rest of us?" Jake looked at her for a long moment. She was beautiful, but her words were ugly. He could see that she wanted him to get angry or run away. That would make her point about humans being primitive. "You know what, Princess?" Jake said in a calm voice. "You're right about one thing. We are different." The princess looked surprised. She had expected him to get mad or make excuses. "Humans are different," Jake continued. "We don't just sit around talking about how great we are. We actually do things. We solve problems. We help people who need help, even if they're not like us." The room got very quiet. Even the background music seemed to stop. "But you think you're so much better than us," Jake said, still speaking calmly. "So how about we make this interesting? Let's have a contest. Not just talking, but real challenges that matter in space." Princess Lyrelay's blue eyes got narrow. "What kind of contest, human?" "3 challenges," Jake said. "Flying through dangerous space, fixing broken equipment under pressure, and dealing with hostile aliens. Winner gets respect. Loser admits they were wrong in front of everyone here." The princess laughed, but it was not a happy laugh. "You want to challenge me? A member of the royal family of the most advanced civilization in the galaxy?" "I'm challenging your ideas about humans," Jake said. "Unless you're scared to put your money where your mouth is." Commander Zara stepped forward. "This is interesting. I will judge this contest fairly." Princess Lyrelay looked around the room. All the aliens were watching her now. If she said no, she would look weak. If she said yes, she was sure she would win easily. "Very well, human," she said with that cold smile. "I accept your pathetic challenge. When you lose, your entire species will be banned from this day. And when I win," Jake said, "you publicly apologize and help humans get better treatment in this sector." "Agreed," the princess said quickly. She was already thinking about how good it would feel to crush this rude human. Commander Zara nodded. The contest will begin tomorrow. 3 challenges as the human suggested. May the best being win. As the crowd started talking excitedly about the coming contest, Jake felt Maya grab his arm. "Are you crazy?" she whispered. "Do you know what you just did?" Jake looked at Princess Lirelei, who was already talking to her advisors about strategies. "Yeah," he said quietly. "I just gave us a chance to show what humans are really made of." The princess glanced back at him once, and for just a second Jake thought he saw something other than anger in her eyes, curiosity maybe, or respect for his courage. Tomorrow would be very interesting. The next morning came too fast for Jake. He stood in the docking bay looking at his small human shuttle next to Princess Liralei's beautiful elven ship. Her ship looked like a silver arrow covered in blue lights. His looked like a metal box with engines stuck on the back. "The first challenge is simple," Commander Zara announced to the crowd of aliens who had come to watch. "Navigate through the Devil's Belt asteroid field to reach the beacon on the other side. Fastest time wins. No weapons allowed, only flying skills." Jake knew about the Devil's Belt. It was a dangerous mess of floating rocks, some as big as buildings. Ships often got smashed to pieces trying to fly through it. The asteroids moved in strange patterns because of the gravity from 3 nearby planets. Princess Lirelei stepped out of her ship, wearing a tight blue flight suit that made her look even more beautiful. Her silver hair was tied back in a perfect style. She looked at Jake's simple work clothes and shook her head. "Ready to give up now, human?" she asked. "It's not too late to admit you made a mistake." "The only mistake would be not trying," Jake said, checking his ship's systems one more time. Dr. Maya ran up to him with a worried look. "Jake, her ship has the best AI pilot in the galaxy. It can calculate millions of possible paths through those asteroids. Your ship just has basic computers." "Sometimes basic is better," Jake said, trying to sound more confident than he felt. Commander Zara raised her hand. "Pilots, start your engines. Launch when the green light shows." Jake climbed into his shuttle and strapped himself in. The seat was old and worn, but comfortable like an old friend. He had fixed every part of this ship himself. He knew every sound it made, every vibration in the controls. Princess Lirelei's ship hummed quietly with perfect elven technology. Her cockpit was full of holographic displays showing detailed maps of the asteroid field. Her AI pilot was already calculating the safest route. The green light flashed. Both ships shot forward into space. The asteroid field looked like a wall of tumbling rocks ahead of them. Jake could see why ships got destroyed here. The asteroids moved in crazy patterns, spinning and crashing into each other. Princess Lirelei's ship moved like a dancer, gliding smoothly between the rocks. The AI pilot made tiny adjustments every second, keeping the ship perfectly safe. It was beautiful to watch, but slow. Jake took a different approach. Instead of trying to avoid every rock, he looked for the natural flow of the asteroids. Like reading currents in a river, he found spaces where the rocks moved together and rode those currents deeper into the field. "Warning, dangerous flight path detected," his computer said in a flat voice. "Yeah, I know," Jake muttered, diving between 2 spinning asteroids that missed his ship by inches. Princess Lirelei watched on her screens as the human ship took risks that made no sense. Her AI pilot called his flying illogical and dangerous. But somehow, he was moving faster than her. Halfway through the field, Jake's risky flying paid off. He found a clear channel between the larger asteroids and pushed his engines to maximum power. His ship shot forward like a bullet, but then disaster struck Princess Lirelei. Her perfect AI pilot had not expected the gravity from the 3 planets to change so suddenly. The asteroids shifted into a new pattern, and her ship's computers could not adapt fast enough. "Warning, navigation system failure," her ship announced calmly. Princess Lirelei found herself trapped between 3 huge spinning rocks with no clear way out. Her perfect technology had failed her when she needed it most. She tried to manually pilot the ship, but elven training focused on working with AI systems, not flying by instinct. The asteroids were closing in. Jake saw what was happening on his rear scanner. The princess was in real danger. He could keep going and win the first challenge easily, but that was not who he was. He turned his ship around. "Princess, can you hear me on the radio?" "Human, what are you doing?" Her voice came through with static. "Helping you get out of there. Follow my lead and do exactly what I do." "I don't need your help," she said, but her voice sounded scared. "Yes, you do. Trust me or get crushed. Your choice." Jake flew his ship into the dangerous area where she was trapped. He found a tiny gap between the asteroids and called out directions. Turn left. Now right. Cut engines for 3 seconds. Now full power forward. Princess Lirelei followed his instructions, even though they seemed crazy. Together, their ships escaped from the deadly trap. They flew side by side toward the finish beacon. Why did you help me? She asked as they left the asteroid field behind. Because it was the right thing to do, Jake said simply. They crossed the finish line at almost the same time. Jake had technically won because he reached the beacon first, but he had given up his big lead to help her. Commander Zara floated in space near the finish beacon in her command ship. Interesting, she said over the radio. The human wins on time but showed honor by helping his opponent. Both pilots showed skill. Back at the station, the crowd of aliens buzzed with excited talk. They had expected the human to either crash or run away. Instead, he had outflown the elven princess and then risked his victory to save her. Princess Lirelei stood in the docking bay, looking at Jake with confusion. I don't understand you, human. You could have won easily if you had left me to die. Winning isn't worth someone getting killed, Jake said, shutting down his ship's systems. Besides, this is just the first challenge. We've got 2 more to go. For the first time since they met, Princess Lirelei smiled at him without any meanness in it. You are not what I expected. Good, Jake said. Expectations are usually wrong anyway. As they prepared for the second challenge, Princess Lirelei found herself thinking about the human pilot in a new way. His ship was ugly and his clothes were simple, but he had shown something her perfect elven society rarely talked about. Courage and kindness when it mattered most. Maybe there was more to humans than she had thought. Maybe there was more to this Jake Morrison than she had assumed. The next challenge would be even more interesting. The second challenge took place in a damaged section of the space station. Commander Zara led Jake and Princess Lirelei to a room filled with broken machines and flashing warning lights. The life support system is failing, Commander Zara explained. You have 1 hour to fix it before the air runs out. The one who solves the problem wins. If both fail, everyone in this section dies. Jake looked around the room. Pipes leaked strange gases, wires sparked from broken panels, and computer screens showed angry red warnings. It looked like a bomb had gone off in here. Princess Lirelei walked to the main control panel and began studying the systems. Her fingers moved quickly over the holographic displays, bringing up detailed diagrams of how everything was supposed to work. Elven technology was built to be perfect, and she knew how to work with perfect systems. The primary oxygen recycler is damaged, she said, more to herself than to Jake. The backup power cell has failed. The air scrubbers are offline. She began following standard elven repair procedures, checking each system in the exact order her training had taught her. Everything had to be done the right way, step by step, with no shortcuts. Jake took a different approach. He ignored the fancy computer displays and went straight to the actual machines. He put his ear against pipes to listen for problems, touched wires to feel if they were getting power, and smelled the air to figure out what gases were leaking. What are you doing? Princess Lirelei asked, watching him crawl under a big machine with a simple toolkit. Learning what's really wrong, Jake said from under the machine. Computers lie sometimes. The actual equipment tells the truth. Princess Lirelei shook her head and went back to her systematic approach. She found the problem in the system diagrams, a broken connection in the main processing unit. Following proper procedures, she began taking apart the panel to reach the damaged component. Jake, meanwhile, discovered something interesting. The machines were not just broken, someone had deliberately damaged them. Wires were cut too cleanly, and important parts were missing entirely. This was not an accident. Princess, he called out, this wasn't equipment failure. Someone sabotaged this system. She looked up from her careful work. That's impossible. Who would do such a thing? Someone who wanted to make sure both of us would fail, Jake said, standing up with grease on his face. Look at this. He showed her a wire that had been cut with a tool, not broken by accident. Princess Lear. Her perfect elven training had not prepared her for sabotage. She had been trying to fix a system that was designed to fail. If you're right, she said slowly, then following normal repair procedures won't work. Exactly, Jake said. We need to think like the person who broke it. What were they trying to accomplish? They stood together looking at the damaged equipment. For the first time, Princess Lirelei saw the situation the way Jake did, not as a technical problem to solve with rules and procedures, but as a puzzle that required creative thinking. "What if we work together?" Jake suggested. "You know how these systems are supposed to work. I know how to make things work when they're not supposed to." Princess Lyrily hesitated. Elven culture valued individual achievement. Working with a human, especially one she had just been competing against, went against everything she had been taught, but the air was getting thinner, and her careful approach was not working. "Very well," she said. "What do you suggest?" Jake grinned. "First, we stop trying to fix what they broke and start building something new with the pieces we have." They spent the next 30 minutes working together in a way neither had expected. Princess Lyrily's precise knowledge of the systems combined with Jake's creative problem-solving to create solutions that neither could have found alone. When they could not find the right connector, Jake made one from spare parts. When Princess Lyrily's calculations showed they needed more power, she rerouted energy from non-essential systems. Jake's willingness to break rules and her deep understanding of the technology made a perfect team. With 10 minutes left, they had jury-rigged a working life support system that looked terrible but functioned perfectly. Commander Zara entered the room as the air quality returned to normal. "Impressive," she said, looking at their improvised solution. "You both win this challenge." The third challenge was announced immediately. Negotiate with Captain Luna, the notorious alien smuggler who had been raiding supply convoys for months. She had agreed to meet with them, but everyone knew she hated authority figures and formal diplomacy. Captain Luna was unlike any alien Jake had seen before. Her skin was dark purple, and her hair moved like it was alive, with thin tentacles instead of normal strands. She wore mismatched armor and carried more weapons than seemed possible. Princess Lyrily approached the negotiation the way she had been taught. She offered standard trade agreements, threatened consequences for continued raids, and spoke in the formal language of galactic law. Captain Luna listened for about 2 minutes, then started laughing. "You think I care about your fancy words and legal threats, elf princess? My people have been ignored by your civilized galaxy for decades. We offer fair compensation for—" Princess Lyrily began. "Fair?" Captain Luna slammed her hand on the table. "Fair would have been helping us when our homeworld was destroyed. Fair would have been giving us a place to live instead of leaving us to drift in space. Don't talk to me about fair." Jake had been quietly listening to everything Captain Luna said. While Princess Lyrily focused on the raids, Jake focused on the smuggler herself. She was angry, but there was pain behind the anger. "Captain Luna," Jake said, stepping forward. "Tell me about your people. What happened to your homeworld?" The change in Captain Luna was immediate. She stopped shouting and looked at Jake with surprise. No one in authority had ever asked her that question before. "Solar flare destroyed our atmosphere," she said quietly. 3 million of my people died. The survivors became refugees, begging other worlds for help. Most turned us away." "That's terrible," Jake said, and he meant it. "You've been taking care of your people the only way you could." "Yes," Captain Luna said, her tentacle hair moving with emotion. "We take what we need to survive because no one will give us what we need to live." Princess Lyrily watched in amazement as Jake continued to ask questions about Captain Luna's culture, their needs, their dreams for the future. He was not trying to stop the raids. He was trying to understand why they happened. "What if we could offer you something better than raiding?" Jake asked. "Legitimate work, respect for your independence, a chance to build a new life for your people?" Captain Luna stared at him. "You would do this? Give us honest work?" "If you're willing to stop the raids and work with us instead of against us," Jake said, "your people have skills the galaxy needs. We just need to find the right way to use them." For the first time in the meeting, Captain Luna smiled. "You're different from the others, human. You listen instead of just talking." Princess Lyrily realized that Jake had accomplished in minutes what she had failed to do with Formal D, or like a person instead of a problem to solve. The negotiations continued for another hour, but the hard part was over. Captain Luna agreed to end the raids in exchange for legitimate salvage contracts and recognition of her people's rights. As they left the meeting, Princess Lyrily walked beside Jake in thoughtful silence. Everything she thought she knew about humans, about civilization itself, was changing. "How did you know what to say to her?" she asked. "I listened," Jake said simply. "Sometimes that's all people really want." The announcement ceremony was supposed to happen in the main hall, with all the aliens watching to see who won the contest. Jake and Princess Lirelei stood waiting for Commander Zara to declare the results. The room was full of excited chatter about the surprising events of the past 2 days, but before Commander Zara could speak, alarms started screaming throughout the station. "Emergency! Emergency! All civilians to safety stations immediately!" The station's computer voice echoed through the halls. Red lights flashed everywhere, and the big viewing windows showed a terrifying sight. A fleet of black ships approached the station, their hulls covered in spikes and strange symbols. These were Void Corsairs, the most feared pirates in the galaxy. "Battle stations!" Commander Zara shouted, her warrior instincts taking over. "All military personnel report for duty!" The Grand Hall erupted in panic. Aliens ran in all directions, trying to reach the emergency shelters. Expensive drinks and fancy decorations were forgotten as everyone focused on survival. Jake did not run. He had been in dangerous situations before, and panic never helped anyone. He looked around, trying to figure out how to help. "The civilian evacuation routes are blocked," Dr. Maya called out, running up to him. "The pirates hit the main corridor with some kind of weapon. People are trapped in the lower levels." Princess Lirelei stood frozen in the middle of the chaos. She had never been in a real emergency before. Elven space was peaceful and protected. She did not know what to do when things went wrong. "Princess," Jake called to her, "we need to help get people out of here." She looked at him with wide, scared eyes. I don't know how. This is not part of my training." "No training needed," Jake said, grabbing her hand. "Just follow me and help however you can." Jake led her through the station's back corridors toward the trapped civilians. The floor shook as the pirates' weapons hit the outer shields. Emergency lights cast strange shadows on the walls. "Why are you helping?" Princess Lirelei asked as they ran. "You could get to a safe place instead." "Because people need help," Jake said, not slowing down. "That's what you do when people need help." They reached the damaged section where several dozen aliens were trapped behind a collapsed wall. Families huddled together, parents holding their children close. The air was getting hot and smoky. Jake immediately started examining the debris, looking for a way through. Princess Lirelei watched him work, then began helping move smaller pieces of rubble. Her fancy white dress got dirty and torn, but she did not care anymore. "There's a gap here," Jake called out. "But it's too small for adults. We need to make it bigger." Working together, they cleared away enough debris to create an escape route. Jake went first to make sure it was safe, then helped pull people through one by one. Princess Lirelei stayed on the other side, comforting the scared children and organizing the evacuation. Commander Zara's voice came over the communication system. "All civilians evacuated from sections A through D. Security teams prepare for boarding parties." "That's us," Jake said, lifting an injured alien trader through the gap. "We got everyone out of this section." But their work was not finished. Another explosion shook the station, and new alarms started sounding. "My ship!" Princess Lirelei gasped, looking toward the docking bay. "The pirates are attacking the ships." They ran toward the docking area, but found it under heavy fire. Several ships were already destroyed, their burning pieces floating in space. Princess Lirelei's beautiful elven vessel was damaged, its elegant hull cracked and smoking. "Can you fly it?" Jake asked. "I don't know," she said, looking at the damage. "The computer systems might be offline." "Then we'll fly it manually," Jake said. "Like we did in the asteroid field." They reached her ship as pirate boarding craft approached the station. Jake dove into the pilot's seat while Princess Lirelei tried to restart her damaged systems. "I can't get the main engines online," she said, her voice shaking with frustration. "The AI pilot is completely dead." "We don't need the AI," Jake said, his hands flying over the manual controls. "This ship can fly without computers if you know which buttons to push." Slowly, the damaged ship lifted off from the docking bay. It moved roughly, nothing like its usual grace, but it moved. Jake piloted it away from the station, heading for a safe position behind some nearby asteroids. But one of the pirate ships followed them. Weapons fire lit up the space around them as the Corsair tried to shoot them down. "Our weapons are offline too," Princess Lirelei reported. "We can't fight back." "We don't need to fight," Jake said, steering the ship deeper into the asteroid field. "We just need to survive." Using the same instinctive flying skills he had shown in the contest, Jake led the pirate ship into a dangerous game of chase among the floating rocks. The Corsair was faster and stronger, but Jake knew how to use the asteroids as cover. The pirate pilot grew frustrated and made a mistake, flying too close to a spinning asteroid. The impact damaged his ship enough that he had to retreat. Jake and Princess Lirelei found a safe hiding spot behind a large rock and waited for the battle to end. Her ship was quiet except for the soft hum of life support systems. "Why did you save me again?" Princess Lirelei asked quietly. "Same reason as before," Jake said. "It was the right thing to do." They sat in silence for a while, watching the lights of battle in the distance. Finally, Princess Lirelei spoke again. "I need to tell you something," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Something I have never told anyone." Jake turned to look at her. In the dim light of her damaged ship, she looked different, less perfect, more real. "The Etherian Empire is dying," she said. "Not from war or disease, but from inside. We have become so focused on being perfect that we have forgotten how to adapt, how to change, how to grow." Jake listened without saying anything, sensing that she needed to talk. "Our technology is beautiful, but it only works when everything goes according to plan," she continued. "Our society is elegant, but it breaks down when we face real problems. We are like flowers in a garden, lovely to look at, but helpless in the wild." "Is that why you were so angry at humans?" Jake asked gently. Princess Lirelei nodded. "You represent everything we are not. You are messy and unpredictable and you make mistakes, but you also adapt and survive and help each other. I was jealous, and I hated being jealous." "You don't seem helpless to me," Jake said. "You helped save all those civilians back there." "Because I was following your lead," she said. "On my own, I would have stood there doing nothing while people died." "You learned fast," Jake pointed out. "That counts for something." She looked at him with something like wonder in her blue eyes. "How do you do it? How do you always know the right thing to do?" Jake laughed quietly. "I don't. I make lots of mistakes, but I try to learn from them instead of pretending they didn't happen." "That is what we have forgotten how to do," Princess Lirelei said sadly. "Admit mistakes, learn from failure, change when we need to change." Commander Zara's voice came over the radio. "All clear. Pirate fleet is retreating. All ships return to station." As they flew back toward Nexus Prime, Princess Lirelei was quiet, thinking about everything that had happened. The contest seemed unimportant now compared to what she had learned about herself and her people. "Jake," she said as they approached the docking bay, "thank you." "For what?" "For showing me that being perfect is not the same as being strong." 3 weeks after the pirate attack, Princess Lirelei was still at Nexus Prime Station. She had sent her guards back to the Etherian Empire with messages for her father, but she stayed to learn more about human culture. Every day brought new surprises. She spent hours watching Jake work on damaged ships in the repair bay. His methods were completely different from Elven engineering. Where her people used precise tools and careful measurements, Jake used whatever was available and trusted his instincts. "Why do you hit it with a hammer?" she asked one day, watching him fix a stubborn engine part. "Sometimes machines get stuck in bad habits," Jake explained, wiping sweat from his face. "A little shock helps them remember how to work right." It was not scientific, but it worked. Princess Lirelei was learning that many human approaches seemed wrong, but produced good results. Dr. Maya had become her friend, teaching her about human medical practices. "We don't just treat symptoms," Maya explained while showing her the medical bay. "We try to understand the whole person, their emotions, their environment, their relationships." "That seems inefficient," Princess Lirelei said, but she was curious, not critical. "Maybe," Maya smiled, "but it works better than just fixing the broken parts and sending people away." Commander Zara visited often to discuss the joint research project that she was organizing. The Kregan Empire had decided that cooperation between species was more valuable than competition. "Your people have knowledge we need," she told Princess Lirelei during one meeting, "but knowledge alone is not enough. We need wisdom to use it well." "And humans have this wisdom?" Princess Lirelei asked. "They have something," Commander Zara said thoughtfully. "The ability to see connections between different things, to find solutions that no one else thinks of." The princess was beginning to understand what the commander meant. Jake did not just solve problems. He helped people work together to solve problems. That was a different kind of intelligence. Captain Luna stopped by the station regularly now, working on the legitimate salvage contracts Jake had helped arrange. Her people were thriving with honest work, and she had become an advocate for peaceful cooperation. "Your human friend changed everything for us," she told Princess Lirelei one day, "not with money or threats, but by listening to our story." "He is good at that," the princess agreed. She had noticed how Jake paid attention to what people really needed, not just what they said they wanted. But the biggest change was in Princess Lirelei herself. She had started wearing simpler clothes and asking more questions. Instead of assuming she knew the best way to do things, she watched and learned. One day, Jake found her in the station's observation deck, looking out at the stars. "Homesick?" he asked, sitting down beside her. "Not exactly," she said. "I am thinking about what home means." "And?" "I used to think home was the place where everything was perfect and beautiful," she said slowly. "But maybe home is the place where you can be yourself even if yourself is not perfect." Jake nodded. "Sounds about right." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching ships come and go from the station. Finally, Princess Lirelei spoke again. "I want to invite you to visit the Etherian Empire," she said, "as my official guest." "That's a big honor," Jake said. "Are you sure your people will accept a human visitor?" "They will if I ask them to," she said with a small smile. "And I think it is time they met a human who can show them what we have been missing." 2 months later, Jake found himself on an elven ship heading toward the Etherian homeworld. Princess Lirelei had arranged everything, despite objections from some of her people's leaders. The elven homeworld was the most beautiful place Jake had ever seen. Crystal cities rose from silver lakes, and gardens full of glowing flowers stretched to the horizon. Everything was perfect, just as the princess had said. But Jake also saw what she meant about her people's problems. The elves moved through their beautiful world like actors in a play, following ancient scripts that no longer made sense. They were afraid to change anything because change might make things less perfect. At a formal dinner with the Elven Council, Jake listened to hours of speeches about tradition and proper procedures. The elves talked about their achievements from thousands of years ago, but had little to say about the future. "What are your people's dreams?" Jake asked during a quiet moment in the conversation. The question surprised everyone. Elves did not talk about dreams. They talked about maintaining what they had already achieved. "I mean, what do you hope will happen in the next 100 years?" Jake continued. "What problems do you want to solve? What new things do you want to discover?" The council members looked at each other uncertainly. They had not thought about the future in terms of hopes and dreams for a very long time. Princess Lirelei stood up. "I have dreams," she said quietly. "I dream of a time when our people work with other species to explore new worlds. I dream of using our knowledge to help solve problems, not just to prove how smart we are." Her father, the Elven King, looked shocked. "Lirelei, such thoughts are not proper for someone of your position." "With respect, father," she said. "Maybe it is time we changed what we think is proper." Jake spent a month with the elves, sharing human approaches to engineering, medicine, and diplomacy. Some elves were interested, while others thought his methods were crude and dangerous. But Princess Lirelei had influence, and slowly, changes began to happen. Young elves started asking questions about why things were done certain ways. Some even began experimenting with new approaches to old problems. When it was time for Jake to leave, Princess Lirelei walked with him to his ship. "Thank you," she said, "for showing me that strength comes from helping others, not from being better than them." "You figured that out on your own," Jake said. "I just gave you a chance to see it." "Will you come back?" she asked. "If you need me," Jake promised. "But I think you're going to do just fine without me." 6 months later, Jake received a message from Princess Lirelei. She was leading a joint expedition with humans, Kriegans, and several other species to explore a newly discovered star system. The expedition was using a combination of elven precision, human adaptability, and Kriegan strength. "We are learning to work together," her message said, "just like you showed us in the asteroid field." At the bottom of the message, she had added something that made Jake smile. "P.S. We hit some of the equipment with hammers yesterday, and it worked perfectly." Jake laughed and saved the message. He had always known that the galaxy was big enough for everyone to find their place in it. Sometimes it just took a little time for people to figure out how to work together. The contest between him and Princess Lirelei had been declared a tie by Commander Zara. Both had won by learning from each other. But Jake thought the real victory was something bigger than any contest. Different species, working together, could accomplish things that none of them could achieve alone. That was worth more than any prize or honor. And somewhere among the stars, Princess Lirelei was proving it every day.